Good morning. My name is Tom Fortune. I'm an instructor here at Pierce College in Woodland Hills, California. Um, I want to talk to you guys today about your career in automotive technology. This is AST 8 and 9. It's a advanced level class. It's a class that it's one of the last automotive classes you'll take in a series of automotive classes here at Pierce College. Most of you are here because at this point, you've decided that automotive is more than just an interest or a hobby. It's something that you think you'd like to make a profession out of. So that's what we're going to talk about in this class today. And let's see if I can get this thing to go to the next frame here. There we go. AST 8 and 9 is designed for the student looking to make automotive technology a career. So you guys are all in this class. In the engines class, the transmissions class, not so much, maybe the brakes class. You get a lot of students in there that they're just interested in working on their own car or taking care of their car, or it's a hobby or something like that. This class is at a much different level. This class is for people that have decided that they think they want to make a career out of automotive technology. Now, some of you already have a job, in automotive technology, and that's good. That's a good thing. You've started to build a foundation in automotive technology, and we'll talk about a lot about that too. Some of you have jobs outside of the industry, and while that's good financially, we'll talk about how at this point, if you've decided that automotive is your career, and you probably need to make some changes. So the job that you have right now, is it going to take you to the day that you retire? A few of you are in that position. I get students that come back to Pierce College here to finish up their degree or certificate so that they can get promoted. A lot of those jobs are at maybe big dealerships or city type jobs, municipal utilities, things like that. Um, but a lot of you are just working at maybe a lower level position at a dealer or a corner garage or something like that. Those are great jobs. They build a lot of experience and stuff, but will they take you to the day that you retire? So let's look at what you really want here. What the whole reason that you're going to school here and you're taking this career, and let's decide and talk about what that might be. Some of you want the ultimate job. You want that job at that utility company or something like that. You want to be the manager, or you want to be a service manager or service director at a busy dealership. Some of you want to own your own business. Some of you want to own your own automotive repair shops. Some of you want to become trainers or educators in automotive technology. But all of these careers are centered around automotive technology. So if you're going to train people in automotive technology, you need to know a little bit about it. If you're going to be a service director or you're going to manage a fleet of vehicles for a utility company, you need to know a lot about automotive technology. So let's explore these careers and examine how you're going to get there. And move my face around here. Regardless of the automotive career that interests you the most, let's examine what you all really should achieve for the foundation that you're building. So let's call the job that we hold prior to retirement the destination job or career. That's that last job before you retired. When you're like, I don't know, 60. What job are you doing at that age? Or do you plan on doing at that age just before you retire? I like to call that the destination career job. It isn't the first automotive job, but it's the job that really brought it all together, rounded up all your training, your experience and everything, and really started to put money in your pocket for the hard work that you've done. So once you finish your education at Pierce, you got to remember that the journey doesn't stop, but rather it's the beginning of your career. So often what I see is some of the students go out of here, they get a job at a little shop on a corner or something like that. And 15 years later, they're still there and they're just making okay money. Maybe they're making a lot of money for the guy that owns the shop, but in reality, you know, it's not a destination job. You have no chance of owning the shop. Maybe you do, but in a lot of cases you don't. So you're just kind of stalled. That can happen at dealerships too. But remember, often the first job upon finishing school builds much of the experience and knowledge that will make you a top candidate for that destination job, probably at another company or venue. So going back to the other guy that maybe stayed at that corner garage for 15 or 20 years, that first 5 years was probably where he really learned the most. And the last 10 or 15, he was just there turning wrenches, making money, punching the clock. And that's what we're going to be looking at, those kind of things. If I can get this to go to the next frame here. There we go. But you might say that you're making big money right now working at that corner shop or that dealer. Maybe you're getting some bonuses or a lot of flag time or something like that. Maybe you even get a lot of cash under the table. But let's take a look at the destination job, the job that, regardless of the path that you take to get there, it should contain some basic benefits. If where you're working right now is afforded you the ability to purchase a home near you where you work, then maybe you're in your destination job. If you're not, if you're not owning a home near where you work, maybe you're not in your destination job. The destination job should provide medical coverage. It should provide the ability to buy new cars from time to time. It should give you paid vacations and time off from time to time. And most of all, it should have a retirement or exit strategy. So when you get old and tired, you can leave and not have to sell your house and move into a tent or a trailer or something like that. So the destination job's a tall order. It isn't necessarily about the pay, but these things, these benefits, they all cost money. Sometimes you want to own your own business, and often it lacks those benefits, but it should provide those benefits for the owner. So working at a small business is a little different than owning a small business. And you say, yeah, but I work for a small mom and pop and they can't provide these luxuries. And in many cases, that's correct. Not in all cases, but in many cases, that's correct. So remember that there'll come a day where you'll not be able to produce value at your peak. So it's up to you to create a way towards that day. Retirement, investments, benefits that will allow you to work less and have something to show for your effort. There's going to come a day when you have a lot up here, maybe more so than what you can do with your hands, and you need to be in a position to where you can capitalize on that. So how do you get there? You need to have a goal, a destination, a certain high paying job position, or an idea for a business. Since we're talking automotive, it's important that you know a lot about automotive technology. And you're starting that. You're learning here at Pierce, and you're going to go on, and the learning process is going to continue. Since you have invested your time in automotive courses, you should build your career as soon as possible working in the industry. So the sooner that you get started working in any job in automotive technology, uh, the sooner you're building that foundation that's going to get you to that destination where you want to go. If you're not working in the automotive industry, then you're just collecting a paycheck. You're not building a foundation. You're not working toward that destination career. Teaching or training in automotive technology, being a service manager at a busy dealer, or owning an automotive shop isn't built doing construction work, flipping burgers, or waiting tables for big tips. All of those jobs started with probably some low level job in the automotive technology field. Your destination job isn't predicated on pay or tips, it's predicated on getting you where you want to go in life. So, it's not what you do. It is what you do, not what you get paid. Let's see if I can make this go. So every career has a place to start. So if you're flipping burgers, that might be a great place to start a culinary arts career. If you're a construction laborer, that might be a great place to start to be a construction foreman or a general contractor or something like that. If you're an entry level helper at a busy corner garage, it is the beginning of an automotive technology career. So the problem that happens to a lot of you guys is, you're flipping burgers or you're a construction laborer, but you're here at Pierce studying automotive technology. So the sooner that you get into a job in the career that you've chosen, the sooner you're going to start moving up that ladder to that destination job. Too often, these entry level jobs, they're just judged on their pay rather than the importance that they play in building your career. So I've had students in here that they need to start working in automotive technology, but they've been working in construction for 4 or 5 years and they're making okay money, not enough for a destination or anything like that, but it's hard for them to make that switch to an automotive career. All of these jobs could be building blocks, but too often they're just pay stubs. They not only waste your time, they're wasting the time of the business owner there too. I mean, if you're running a construction crew and you're looking for somebody to move up to be the foreman and you're working for them and you're a pretty good guy, but you're taking automotive technology classes at Pierce College, you're probably not going to be that construction foreman for that guy. So you're wasting the employer's time as well as your own. So, having taught for nearly 2 decades, being a shop owner for nearly 30 years, and being a product of the school myself, I've sort of made some observations. Some of you are employed outside the industry making okay money. I've seen students that are working at Costco or they're a middle manager at some restaurant chain or something. They're making pretty good money for a college job, but it's not a destination career. And what happens is they can't bring themselves to take a pay cut to get the entry level positions in automotive. So their career never gets started. They're stuck, being a middle manager at Costco or some darn thing. And, they've got an associate degree in automotive technology. So they're never able to take their training and bring it to a level to where it'll provide that destination career for them. Some students land a job, and this is another thing that's really bad. Some students land a job in the industry, but they and their employer fail to recognize how this entry level job is an important step in building a career, and they never create a path or a ladder for the employee upwards. So sometimes I'll talk to students that land a job at a busy dealer or something like that. I'll talk to them 2 years later, and they're still in the oil change lane. So they got into the career field that they wanted to, but they never seem to accelerate beyond that. Sometimes that problem is the student or the employee. A lot of times that problem is the employer. So we're going to take a look at that too. So there's two kinds of students. There's those who really never give the industry a chance. They're working for their dad's construction company. Dad's paying them pretty good money, but they don't own the company. Maybe they will someday, but that's not what they're studying for. I had a guy that was a manager at some Bevmo or something like that. He was making fair money, but reality was he had no automotive experience and he wasn't going to get any there. And he was going to need to take a pay cut to get some automotive experience and get out of that middle manager position at this Bevmo. So he really never gave the industry a chance. I've had students that are waiting tables. Some of them are waiting tables for movie stars that get ridiculous tips and stuff, but doesn't build their automotive technology career. Warehouse managers, Home Depot, all of that stuff. They're making okay money, good money for going to college, not good money to provide for your family and buy a home and retire. So then I have those who are in the industry, but they become stuck and they ultimately leave the industry. A while back, I got an ad on my phone that says top paying automotive jobs, click here. And rather than clicking here, I clicked on the comments. And I found probably 3/4 of the comments were bad mouthing the industry, talking about how they worked 10 or 15 years in automotive and they never made any money and they had to buy tools and it sucked. And now they're over at Home Depot where they're a warehouse manager or they're driving a truck for Walmart or something like that. So anyway, what happens to some of these people is they stop training upon finishing school. So they go to Pierce, they get their training, maybe their certificate or their degree, they get a job, and they just keep working that job. And 10 years later, they're doing the same job. And they haven't looked at building their career beyond that level, and neither has the employer. So there's a situation, I call it stagnation. They work at the top level of a small organization with no room for advancement. This happens a lot at the corner garages or the mom and pop operations. They've learned a lot in the beginning. They're really sharp. Maybe they're even a master tech, but there isn't anywhere for them to go with this organization unless the owner is going to sell them the business. And sometimes that happens, but mostly it doesn't. So you need to recognize that those kind of businesses are very good for getting your career started, but they have their limits. And once you've reached that limit, it's probably time to move on. And they look at the pay instead of what you're worth. It's like, you know, you need to be building experience and knowledge. Once you have that, the pay will come along. If the experience and the knowledge isn't growing, it's time to move. All right. So I'm going to examine those in the industry, but stuck in a low level position, and that's what I see happen. Even some of you that are in my class right now have this going on, where you're working at a shop or a dealer, but your career isn't moving in an upward trend. It's important to realize that no matter how big the organization you work for, that there's a very limited number of positions at the top. I get these advertising pieces from some of the automakers, and they show how you can train, get some factory training, which is great. And it shows how you can start at a low level position and rise all the way to the point to where you own a automobile dealership. And that's great. And I'm sure that's happened, and it does happen, but it doesn't happen to everybody. And it certainly doesn't happen to everybody that goes to work at ABC, Toyota or whatever. There's only one or two guys that are at the top, not everybody. So that's the first thing that you need to realize. Often to get a top job, it means that you're going to need to go to a different company. So sometimes you can be at a big, busy dealership and rise to a certain level. And maybe you want to go beyond that level, and those positions just aren't there at that dealership. That means that you're probably going to need to move, go to a different company or different dealership. So it's important that you have a resume that a company will look at and realize that you're the right candidate for the job. Having to leave a company for a higher position elsewhere isn't always the fault of the place where you're working. Often these jobs are about timing and circumstance. There's a limited number of top jobs, and these jobs are not necessarily for everyone. So there isn't top jobs for everybody at the biggest Ford dealer in the country. There's top jobs for some, and a lot of it depends on timing. I think a lot of these big dealerships recognize that they have great people that learn a lot and stay for maybe 8, 10 years, 15 years, and it's time for them to leave. And they're still good people and they're still friends. Make sure your destination job isn't about the money, but rather about what you want or are comfortable with. Remember, the job needs to provide all the benefits that we talked about earlier, but sometimes less stress and responsibility is more important than a fat paycheck. Not everybody wants a top job. So what I'm saying here is, if you're just looking at the money, the pay, well, that's liable to land you in a job that you really don't like. You like automotive. You studied automotive. You're going to find your niche. You're going to find what you like to do. And that's probably where you're going to be the most comfortable and make the most money. If it gets to the point to where you're getting a big fat paycheck, but you don't like it, then that's not going to be sustainable for you. So how do you get from the low level job in automotive to the destination position? And the first thing you got to do is you got to recognize where you're at, where you're working, and what your position is. So, if you're at a busy dealer and you've been there a few years and you're still changing oil, or worse, you're still the porter, you're not headed anywhere. And so you need to recognize that hey, you're at a place that where you can climb, but your position is a low level position. I had a student that's very excited, got his first job at a big Mercedes dealership, and 10 months later, he's still a porter. And it's like, hey, you're studying automotive. You need some experience. And boy, he needs experience. And they're not giving him that opportunity. Or maybe he's not asking for that opportunity. That's a problem as well. Sometimes those low level jobs at these big dealerships are just that. They're low level jobs. And maybe the last porter that they had was some college kid that was going to go be an attorney when he graduated college. And maybe he was a great guy for them. Maybe he stayed there for 2 years while he was going to law school. Well, you're not going to law school. You're an automotive technician, and you probably got that job because you wanted to work at a dealership. And sometimes the dealers will use the porter position as just a way to find out if you're reliable, if you show up on time, if you have the kind of character that they're looking for before they start training you to be a technician. So you need to recognize where you're at and what your position is. Sometimes you can go to a corner gas station, which is not a Mercedes dealer, and you're like, oh, well, that's not very prestigious. And you're just pumping gas and helping the mechanic in the back room. But those places a lot of times will get you in the position where you're being a helper or a technician and you're learning a lot of technical expertise that's going to build your career. Um, so you could be at the corner gas station pumping gas, helping the mechanic in the back room. You're excited, you just got a raise. But remember, it's probably not going to be a destination job unless the owner wants to sell you the business. So, those are two jobs where you can get a lot of experience, but they're both very different. And in terms of how far you can grow and in the time frames that might be involved in getting that experience. The sale of that small business is a possibility, but not likely. But in the meantime, your goal is to work closely with the mechanic there, learning all you can from him or her, knowing how to do the job right, what parts to use, everything you need to know to make the job right and the customer happy. That happens a lot at the corner gas station and or garage. And you, as an entry level technician, are probably going to get closer to the nitty gritty in a place like that quicker than you might at a big dealership. On the other hand, at the big dealership, they have a lot of room for you to grow and a lot of career possibilities under one roof. So you need to recognize where you're at. In any event, regardless of where you work, dealership or corner service station or corner garage, back up your experience with ASE testing and in the areas that you're practicing. If you're doing a lot of brake work where you're at, you should have an ASE certification in brakes. If you're doing a lot of air conditioning work or electrical work, all of that stuff, if they send you to training, if the dealer sends you to training, regardless of what certification they provide, I recommend ASEs. ASEs are independent. They're you take them with you, they're yours. Once you have the experience and the ASEs, you'll be in a position for a few possibilities. Sometimes it's a raise at your current job or a promotion, or it's a good looking resume for your next step, depending on where you're at and where you're trying to go. At the end of your career, your destination in life is the sum total of your training and experience. So, a couple of years ago, I was at a meeting at a busy dealership, and a gentleman from one of the utility companies, LA Water and Power, came in, and he told us that the starting wage for mechanics is about $96,000 a year with that utility. It includes full benefits, retirement, and opportunities for advancement. And he said something to me. He said, we're a destination employer. And I thought about back in the days when I owned my shop for nearly 30 years. And I asked myself, was I a destination employer? And the answer is certainly not. But looking at what my position was as a shop owner for nearly 30 years was I was an entry level employer to a mid level or even a high level technician employment. I had master techs working for me. But by the time I brought a guy in from entry level all the way up to the level of master tech, once they became master tech, it was probably time for me to either sell them the shop, which I wasn't prepared to do, or they needed to move on because they had the potential to make a lot more money somewhere else and they were going to do it. And as a shop owner, um, some of you are shop owners out there someday. You need to realize that a person like that needs to go to a higher level, not to a shop down the street. And I think it's going to be in your interest as a shop owner to help them get to a higher level. Same thing at a dealer. I mean, if you're the service manager at a dealer and you got a top guy, a top producer there, and you have no place for him to move up in your company or organization, he needs to go somewhere where he can. And you need to recognize that as an employer as well. Otherwise, he'll end up that guy on my phone, bad mouthing the industry and driving a truck for Walmart, and none of us want that. Anyway, current fleet managers. So you get a job like at Water and Power or something like that with an auto tech background. I'm hearing some of these guys are making 250, 300,000 a year managing a big fleet of police cars or something like that. A lot of responsibility, not a job for every automotive technician, but certainly the money is there and it's built on an automotive technology background. So many of you guys want that job, but are you ready for this job upon completion of your studies at Pierce? And the answer is not, I doubt it. It's in 9 times out of 10, it's no. You need to have at least some experience, some certifications to get into the entry level positions at these utility companies, if that's what you want to do. Preparing yourself for the job that will put you on the destination path. So, initial training, completion of your certificate or degree in automotive technology is a good start. A lot of you that are sitting here in this class listening to this, that's about where you're at. Gaining trade experience in the automotive field is a must. So if you don't already have a job in automotive technology, you need to get one. You need to get started sooner rather than later. You need to get through the being a porter or being a shop helper or something like that. And if you can do that while you're going to school, that's a good time to do it. That way, what we're talking about here in school, you get some hands-on or some firsthand experience about how this stuff happens in the field. If we talk about brakes all day long in class and then you go down to the burger place and flip burgers all day long, it's going to be harder for you. Recognizing the limitations of the job early in your career and moving on to make sure you continue expanding your experience and training. I've had students that get jobs at some of these fast lube places, and those are good entry level jobs, but they have limitations. And I've also hired as a shop owner, I've hired people that have worked at those places, and they have a lot of valuable experience that if you're a shop owner, you might consider hiring a young guy or woman out of a lube place. They know how to rack the cars properly. They know maintenance schedules. They know the right oils and fluids that belong in the cars. They have valuable experience, and they will help your shop, and it will help them build a career in automotive technology. So those lube places are good entry-level jobs. Pitfalls and things to watch out for. The number one is delaying your entry level into the industry. Some of you are in this advanced level automotive class here. You've taken several units of automotive technology. You're almost ready to get a degree or certificate, and you're either not working at all, which is fine. That probably helped you get your schooling done quickly, but it's time to take a job, and it's time to take a job in automotive technology, not some, fun job at, an ice cream store or parking cars at a dealership. Once you've made the decision to embark on an automotive technology career, seek employment as soon as possible. Starting salaries are low. When you start, it's low. It's not high. You don't know what you're doing. You need to start at the bottom. And the salaries are low, just like most industries in starting. And the more experience you have, the higher the pay. But if you stay too long at a burger joint or other job in your career path, not in your career path, then that wastes your time. It wastes the employer where you're working. It's wasting his time too. And it makes the transition to automotive career harder to achieve financially. So let's say you're you're a good worker and you're working at the corner burger stand and they like you and you're reliable, all good traits for working. They've raised your pay, but are they going to sell you the burger stand? Is that what you want to do? If it's not, then you need to move on. And the sooner you move on, the easier it's going to be financially to do that. You've got to pay your dues, and that means starting at the bottom and working your way up. Nobody starts at the top, and that's true for any field, I would say. Number two thing, just as bad as delaying entry, is staying too long at an entry level position. These are the guys that are working at the prestigious dealer, but they're still a porter, or they've been there for 2 or 3 years and they're still just in the oil change lane. I don't know what the problem is. The problem's either you or the place you're working. But if you don't handle that problem, then you're going to become a statistic and you're going to be leaving the industry. So you don't want to stay too long at an entry level position. And it happens often, and it's could be twofold. The first problem could be that the boss hasn't even talked to you about what your desires are, and he just keeps you changing oil and mopping the floors, just like the last kid that went on to be a lawyer, right? It's an entry level job. He thought you were going to college. He didn't even bother to talk to you about what you're learning in college. So maybe he thinks you're just there for a few bucks while you're going to school and you're going to go off and be a lawyer. Make sure the boss knows your intentions and desires, and a smart boss will challenge you to expand your skill sets, encourage training and certifications with a pay reward for accomplishments. And, if you're working at a shop like that, you're working at the right place. Okay. If you're just working at a place where they're using you and using you and using you, boy, you need to be learning all you can, taking some ASEs along the way. You got to create your own path. So it's always nice when you want to do it and the boss wants that for you too. But that doesn't always happen. Oops, I got to go back. The other problem occurs when the boss offers the challenges and the employee does not take up the offer and the challenge. So sometimes they offer to send you off to, air conditioning school or electrical school or whatever. And, you don't do it for whatever reason. Well, that sends what kind of a message to the boss? So, when you get an opportunity to grow, you need to take it. The problem sometimes happens when the employee really wants to be a lawyer or some other profession, or it could signal to the boss that you're just lazy and unmotivated. So if you're that kid that's, changing oil at the busy dealership going to law school, you're not going to take that challenge to go learn about electrical and stuff in a car. You want to get out of there. Well, if you're just some guy that's don't feel like you want to do that right now, that just tells the boss that you might be the same thing. Either that or it tells them that you're lazy. You need to recognize that a good opportunity will help you realize your career goals and take advantage of them. Now, beware that some shops are not interested in training you, and they point that to a point that you might leave. So I've seen some shop owners and dealers too that they don't want to train you too much because the dealer down the street might hire you. And that's short-sighted on their part, but you don't want to move down the street anyway. You want to move up the street. You want to move to a new neighborhood, a higher level, not the same job down the street for a few bucks more. Don't get caught in that trap. Those are lateral moves. You don't want to do that. You want to be upwardly mobile. They have a short, sometimes these shops that don't want to train you too much have a short career path and they want to pigeonhole you into staying there forever. So once the experience lacks challenges and expanded training, it might be time to move on. Sometimes that happens at busy independent shops where they're busy, they got a limited path, they need a lot of cars fixed, you can get a lot of experience, you might even be a master tech. Unless they're going to sell you the shop or open another one or profit share or do something with you, and it's probably going to be time to leave. And you need to recognize that. And I think a lot of bosses need to recognize that as well. I call it stagnation, staying too long. And it can happen at any level, entry level to mid level and above. Big and small operations can result in stagnation. Often stagnation's not recognized by the employer. If the employee and employer do not recognize stagnation, bad relationships develop that often end with the employee leaving the industry. So I've ran into this when I had my shop. You get people that stay beyond 5, 6 years. You don't have anywhere for them to grow or go to or move up to. You're paying them all that you can. Where are they going to go? They're just stuck making this mid-range level wage, and there's nowhere for them to go except for out the door. And the sooner the boss and the employee recognize that, and they work together to help create a path for that employee to move to a higher level, the better things are going to be, and the more opportunity that shop will have to bring in more people to train them up to that level. So to avoid stagnation, this is what I think that you need to recognize. First off, different employers have shorter or longer paths to the top. If you're some chain of dealerships and you got 8 or 10 automotive dealerships, you have a lot of paths for people. Not for everybody, but you have a lot of paths to the top. So you're going to be in a better position to keep people there for a longer period of time. And as an employee, you might have a better opportunity to stay at a dealer like that for a long period of time as well. And some are long and detailed. They have training opportunities and positions along the way and have big rewards at the upper levels. So just like I was talking about, maybe it's a chain of dealers or something like that, and you're in a middle management position moving up. Maybe you're a training director or a shop foreman or something like that. Others, small independents, usually have shorter paths. These shops have fewer employees, and in many cases, these shops have what I call accelerated timeframes for trainees to become hands-on techs. What I'm saying is if you go to work for a small independent shop like that, you're probably not going to be a porter for 2 years. You better be technically pretty sharp, or they won't hang on to you. But um, you'll be getting dirtier faster, as I say, in a good way. The problem is with these shops is the top job is the shop owner. And that means unless you're buying in or he's going to sell you the business, you're probably most likely going to have to leave at some point to achieve your destination job. They're probably not going to pay you 300K a year to manage their independent shop like maybe a public utility might. So just know that. So avoiding the stagnation and making good use of the pathways and recognizing a pathway when it's there. Big dealers and chains, these type of businesses have many support positions: porter, parts department, helper, lube tech. All of these provide jobs, often with very little experience. So they have a lot of entry level jobs. But the chances of getting hired are good because they're always looking for people. They call me all the time. But the chances of getting your hands dirty takes a little longer. And that's probably what you need. I mean, after all, you've taken about 40 units of automotive technology training. You didn't do that to go park cars. You need to make sure that you express your desires and take advantages of opportunities offered. So, if you take a job as a porter and you're a student of mine here and you've taken 40 units of automotive technology, you need to make it very clear that you're willing to be a porter for a while so they can get to know you, but you want to be an automotive technician. And if they don't offer you that opportunity, you're going to be leaving. And I would say after about 6 months, if you're not offered a chance for advancement, you need to move on. The pros are with a big chain is that they hire lesser experienced people and they have a really long career path under one roof. That's a good thing. The cons are often the sheer size can sometimes lead to stagnation due to management turnover, buyouts, etc. So I've heard this a lot. Students, an oil change lane technician for 2 years, and they've gone through 3 service managers. The service managers never even get to know them. Just as soon as you build a relationship with a service manager and they're comfortable and they're ready to send you to more training to advance your career, there's a buyout or he gets changed or there's a new job there. So you got to watch that. Just remember that when the challenges cease and the pathway stalls, it's time to leave. And that doesn't matter where you're working. When the challenges are not there anymore, it's all routine. There's no higher level path. you know, it's time to start looking to go somewhere else. And if you're an employer, you need to recognize this. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. You're going to be losing people. And, I say it's inevitable anyway, but at least if you're aware of it, you have some control over the situation. And back up. So avoiding stagnation and examining the pathways continued. So if you're in an independent, smaller shop, these shops have fewer support positions typically. So that means that you're probably not going to be a porter or a lube bay technician or something like that. You're probably going to start out as a helper or a trainee, and you're going to move right into doing brakes and stuff in a fairly quick, orderly fashion. That's a good thing. In a big dealer, you may never know who the owner is, but in a small shop, you're probably going to be working with him or her on a daily basis. The pros are that you'll likely be involved in repairs from early in your employment, first as a helper and then moving on to doing the work solo by yourself. The challenges are rapid fire and the learning curve can be steep. So, you've been there 6 months and here's a car with a hood up. It's got a tough electrical problem, and you need to know how to do research. You know how to look at wiring diagrams. You got to fix the car. They don't have somebody further up the ladder that they can ship it off to. It's going to have to happen with you. The cons are that their path or growth opportunities are limited, and your hands-on experience is huge, but the chances to advance financially are limited unless the owner retires and sells you the shop. And it happens. I've even had students here that they've purchased the shops that they started out working for, but it's rare. It doesn't happen a lot. Make sure you're receiving training, though, and continue your certification testing. Often the experience at this kind of place can help you obtain ASE master status in just a few years. So if you're working at a busy corner shop, my advice to you is study and take ASE tests and pass them as quickly as you can, okay? Because if you're there for 4 or 5 years and you have all of the experience and know-how, but you can't verify it with ASE certifications, remember, this is an independent shop on the corner. They didn't send you to Ford Motor Company training where you come back with a plaque or whatever. They probably sent you out to AC Delco for this and, something else for that, a little here and a little there. You need to put it all together yourself by being an ASE master tech at a shop like that. And you can do it. And I've seen it happen a lot, guys that know where they're going. You need to prepare yourself for departure and when the learning stops and the pathway has reached its end. And I would say in a lot of these smaller independent shops, that end is probably somewhere around 5 to 7 years. And a lot of the shop owners will be mad at me for telling you that, but it's probably the truth. Unless they're going to sell you a shop or open another location. Let's see if I can get this thing to go here. So certifications are an important gauge to your process, or your progress, I should say. A lot of you know that I make you take ASEs just to graduate from our program. You have to have at least one. It's something you need to get familiar with and work and build. It's recognized at a lot of dealers, even dealers that don't pay for them. That's not a reason not to do it. You need to do this. ASE Master Tech or factory authorized training indicating master status is a milestone all of you should desire. Both have value. However, the ASE allows you to study and test regardless of your employment situation or status. So the thing about ASE is you don't need the boss's permission to go take the test. You don't have to wait for him to send you there. You have to pay for it, but you're building your career. That's what you need to do. So often I hear of employers who do not reward for certification milestones, or they only pay a bonus for factory certifications. You hear that a lot, and I would tell you to beware that if they only pay for factory certifications and you're not getting the training and the testing opportunity for those certifications, it's time to leave, okay? So what they're doing is they're telling you why they can't pay you more, and they hold all the cards, okay? So the ASE certification gives you some cards to hold for yourself, and that's what you need to do. I recommend ASE testing and certifications regardless of whether or not the boss encourages it. They're yours. You take them with you. They're generally recognized along with documented experience by good destination type employers. This is why I make you take and pass at least one ASE exam. I'll tell you something else too. Some of you want to own your own shop, and one day you're going to find yourself talking to your banker about why you need to borrow $1 million to build a new building or buy some equipment or something, make a big business move in your career. And your degree or certificate at Pierce College and Master Tech status with ASE is one of the things that ought to be on that resume, that you show that banker that why you're the right guy for this loan, not some guy who just thinks that he knows it all. So it's important. So my final thoughts here are: not everybody wants the headaches and stress that might go with a high level position. So don't do the job just because of the pay. Do it because that's what you want to do. It's what you like to do. Generally, if you're doing what you want to do and what you like to do, you're going to get the things that we talked about in the beginning of the destination job. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Good work ethic, training, and reliability is often rewarded at many municipal and fleet jobs, and they require a certain level of competency. So you're not going to get that job unless you can pass their test. Um, Maybe you don't need ASEs to get the job, but you need to pass their test. Their test is similar to what you would be doing if you were taking an ASE test or something like that. So ASE and city testing, I think they go hand in hand. Remember, even once you're at the city, even me, I'm a teacher at Pierce College. They require that I be a Master Tech status while I'm here teaching. Know that to reach the destination, certain experience and milestones need to be reached that usually involve changing jobs. So, you know, you're only going to get certain levels and certain experiences at certain places. Some of the lowest level jobs I had 35, 40 years ago are what I teach to you guys every day. And, some of you guys go, "Oh, Fortune, I broke a bolt off here. Oh, what do I do?" And I'll go over there and I'll get it out pretty quickly for you. And I'll think back, where did I do this a lot, man? I did it at one of my first entry level jobs where I didn't make a lot of money, but boy, I sure learned how to get broken bolts out quick. Don't burn bridges. Don't get mad at the boss and pack up your crap and leave. Uh, when the pathway stagnates, you update your resume, locate the next path, and give your notice. But above all, be upfront about your desires. One day you will likely be an equal or more to your boss, and it's nice to remain friends. And the friendship builds your resume too. So hopefully this will help you out, help you recognize what's going on. Some of you are stagnated and stalled in your job already. I've been talking to some area employers about this, and some of them are really sharp to this, and they're doing this, and they're advancing our students up the ladder in a fairly timely fashion. And some of them not so much. But anyway, good luck, and it was nice talking to you.